I have been running this on my camera rig for the last few months, and honestly, it's made me question why I spent so much on camera and monitor batteries before. This is the Neewer PS099E. It's a 99 watt hour V-mount that usually sits around the $100 mark. Now, at first I was a bit skeptical, but after putting it through some real world tests, including video shoots that took several hours straight and powering a video light during interviews, it actually surprised me. It's not perfect, but it might be the most notable upgrade this year. For disclosure, Neewer did send me this battery, but as always, this won't stop me from giving you my honest thoughts about a product. First, let's talk about versatility. A lot of people think V-mounts are just for big cinema cameras, but this Neewer battery is built for creators like you and me. On one side, we have the standard D-tap. I use that for my monitor. And on the other, we have a 65 watt USB-C port, which I use to power my Sony a7 IV. And this port is actually bidirectional, meaning you can also use it to charge the battery itself. There also is a USB-A port next to it, and from time to time I would use that for a cooler to prevent the Sony a7 IV from overheating, because it really is a shame that depending on the temperature, whether it is outdoors or indoors, and how much you got going on with the A7 IV, it tends to overheat. Now back to the V-mount battery. Besides the D-tap and two USB ports, it also has a DC 8 volt and DC 12 volt barrel ports. So if you're using other accessories that need a specific voltage, they might become handy. The first thing I noticed was how small and light the battery actually feels. It weighs 519 grams and doesn't take up much space in the camera bag, but at the same time adds some bulk to the rig. So here's my go-to setup, the Sony a7 IV paired with the Atomos Shinobi Go. Like I mentioned earlier, I run the USB-C straight into the camera and the D-tap into the monitor. One of the best things about this setup is having everything powered from one source and knowing that the battery will hold for a long period of time. So there is no need to turn the camera on and off every now and then. I could just simply have it powered on all the time and be ready for the next moment that I need to capture. In my experience, this whole setup should run at least for about 6-7 hours. What's wrong with you people? I haven't pushed the battery to the limit with this rig during a real project, so it wouldn't shut down while filming. However, I did some tests in the studio to see how powerful this battery is, and we will get into it in a bit. But the longest I had this rig powered on was around 3.5 hours straight, and during that time the battery level dropped from 100% to around 50%. So I can assume it would be an entire shoot day without thinking about the battery percentage. And speaking of which, the OLED screen on the back is bright and shows exactly how much juice you have left and your current consumption for each port. If you find this rig breakdown helpful, hit that like button. It helps for the video to grow. Lighting is where you can see the limits of these mini V-mounts. Before having this battery as a main power source for lighting during interviews, I tested this with the iFootage Anglerfish SL160BNA. Since that light draws 60 watts and this battery outputs 65, it works perfectly at 100% of brightness, while powered by just a single USB-C cable. I ran it at full blast for 1 hour before the battery ran dry. It's a fantastic setup for quick location interviews, and if you don't need the light at full brightness, it will last even longer before running out of juice. And another thing I noticed, that even with all that power consumption, which might be the fastest way to get this battery dry, the battery didn't heat up. Yes, it got slightly warm, but not at a worrying level. However, if you're using something like the June Mullis X100, this might hit the limitation. That light needs a full 100 watt source to reach maximum output. Because the PS099E caps at 65 watts, the light can't be dialed up to 100%. I still used it on a commercial shoot recently, and it provided plenty of light for the background. But just know you won't get that full power of 100-watt fixture with this specific battery. When it comes to charging, you don't need to carry a dedicated V-mount charger. I just use my 65-watt USB-C charger, and in the test I did, it took about 2 hours for the battery to get from 0 to 100%. Actually looking at these percentages and how fast it charges reminds me that when I first started to use this V-mount battery, I was a bit surprised because the first 10 to 15% of the battery dropped pretty fast, and I thought it won't last even 2 hours if it keeps dropping at that rate. But then it just evened out and was fine the rest of the way. So is this the best battery on the market? Well, it might be. For $100, it definitely brings value for the money. It would take a lot of batteries and swapping for camera and other accessories. I put links to everything in the setup in the description below. Those are affiliate links, so using them supports the channel at no extra cost to you. If you have questions about how I rigged this up, drop a comment. I'm there as much as I can, and who knows, we might need to create a separate video breaking down this camera rig. Now, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.